Welcome to Stories of Brave Mothers, a channel dedicated to telling real and touching stories of brave mothers from around the world.
What would you do if you had only one leg and still had to walk your child to school every single day? This is the story of Marianne, a brave mother who didn't let the loss of a leg stop love from reaching the classroom. She faced cold, pain, prejudice, and even a serious infection, all to secure her son's future. But what no one expected was how her quiet walk would end up inspiring an entire city and changing both their lives forever. Get ready, because this story will touch your heart in a way you'll never forget. In the modest suburbs of Louisville, Kentucky, where the houses are simple and the mornings start early, lived a woman who seemed to carry the weight of the world on her shoulders and still smiled. Her name was Marianne Walker, a brave mother who, even with only one leg, turned every obstacle into a reason to keep going. She wasn't a caped hero or a storybook character. She was flesh, bone, scars, and hope. At 36, Marianne had already faced more than most people do in a lifetime. After losing her right leg in a serious car accident 7 years earlier, many told her her life would never be the same, that she'd probably have to rely on others, accept her limitations, and settle for a more peaceful existence. But that just wasn't her, especially because there was a little boy who depended on her every single day. Her 6-year-old son, Ethan. Ethan was a curious, bright kid with lively eyes and a sweet way of speaking. He loved dinosaurs, strawberry pancakes, and asking why about everything. The kind of child you look at and instantly feel there's something special about him. But Ethan had his own struggles too. He was born with a slight speech delay and needed constant support at school. Marianne knew that for her son to thrive, he needed to be present in that classroom every day. And that's when the greatest challenge of her life began. Their house was about a mile away from the local public school, Jefferson Elementary. That might not sound like much, but for someone who uses crutches, has a worn-out prosthetic, and lives with daily pain in her hip, that route feels like a marathon. And to make matters worse, they didn't have a car. The old Ford Focus donated by her brother had broken down months earlier, and they didn't have the money to fix it. Public transportation? Nearly non-existent in that part of town. School bus. Ethan couldn't ride alone yet due to his special needs. So Marianne made a quiet decision. No drama, no applause. She would walk her son to school on one leg every single day. Rain or shine, freezing cold or blistering heat, she would be there, ready to take her trembling, painful steps with her son by her side. That first day was tough. Marianne put on her prosthetic, adjusted the crutches, and walked to Ethan's room. She woke him with kisses, made cereal and banana for breakfast, then helped him put on his backpack. He had no idea of the effort behind his mother's smile. All he saw was love. All he felt was safety. At the front door, Marianne took a deep breath. She could feel the metal of the prosthetic rubbing against her skin. But she didn't hesitate. She took the first step, then the second, and kept going. The streets in their neighborhood weren't made for people with disabilities. The sidewalks were uneven, full of cracks. In some stretches, they didn't exist at all. She'd have to walk on the roadside, dodging cars. Sometimes there was a light drizzle, and her crutch would slip. Other times, the sun was so strong her clothes clung to her skin, soaked with sweat. But every single day, without missing one, she made the walk. At first, people stared. Some glanced with curiosity. A few stopped and offered her a ride. Marianne smiled, thanked them, but declined. That walk was her time with Ethan, her chance to talk, to teach, to build a bond that couldn't be broken. One day, as they were crossing the street near the school, Ethan asked, "Mommy, when I grow up, will I be able to carry you?" Marianne smiled, swallowing the lump in her throat. "You don't need to carry me, sweetheart. Just promise me you'll always walk beside me." And in that moment, she knew every painful step was worth it. That daily walk turned into a routine, and the routine became a living lesson in love. The neighbors began to notice. A man on the corner started leaving a frozen water bottle on top of his wall. An older lady offered an umbrella on a rainy day. Little by little, the community started to quietly lend a hand. Shy but genuine, Marianne never asked for help, but her silent fight touched people deeply. It was impossible not to admire that determined woman who walked as if she had 2 legs and 1,000 reasons to keep going. Ethan began to change too. He grew more confident, more sociable with classmates. His teacher saw the progress. He spoke more, smiled more, and seemed to understand that at home, he had something rare, a mother who never gave up. But Marianne's story didn't start there. She knew pain long before that walk. 7 years earlier, on a regular afternoon, she was coming home from her shift as a diner waitress. It was raining, the road was slick, and a drunk driver ran a red light. The impact was brutal. She survived by a miracle, but the doctors couldn't save her leg. She spent weeks in the hospital, undergoing surgeries and physical therapy. Back then, Ethan was still a baby, and she feared she'd never hold him in her arms again. But she did. It took time. It hurt, but she did. Since then, Marianne had been reinventing herself. She learned to drive with special controls, even though she didn't own a car, took online courses, tried remote jobs, but reality was harsh. She raised her son alone, got occasional help from her elderly mother, and lived with little. Still, she kept the house clean, food in the pantry, and her heart burning with hope. Maybe what stood out most about Marianne wasn't the leg she lost. It was what she never lost. Courage, that quiet strength that doesn't make noise, but moves mountains. And over time, her story spread beyond the neighborhood. One of Ethan's teachers told the school principal. The principal told a local journalist. And one day, without warning, a reporter showed up near the school gates, watching from a distance as the woman with crutches crossed the street, holding her son's hand. That afternoon, Marianne's phone rang. It was the news station. They wanted to do a story to show the world what she did every day. She hesitated. She didn't like the spotlight. She wasn't doing this for recognition. But then she thought, maybe, just maybe, her story could inspire other mothers who were fighting in silence too. So she said yes. But that's a story for another time. For now, we need to keep seeing this scene with the eyes of the soul. A mother with only one leg, walking through the city every day, just to make sure her child made it to school. No excuses, no complaints, only love, only courage, and the steady steps of someone who will never, ever stop. And right there, among the dry autumn leaves, the laughter of kids at recess, and distant car horns, began one of the most inspiring stories that city would ever know. That year, winter came early in Louisville. The leaves had barely finished their farewell dance when the first snowflakes began to fall. Mornings grew shorter, and the cold felt like it could cut through skin like a blade. But even as the temperatures dropped, Marianne Walker stayed the same, determined, quiet, and in motion. Now, the walk to school demanded even more. Her prosthetic would stiffen in the cold. The crutches slipped more easily. The pain in her hip worsened, and the bitter wind would sneak under her coat like it was testing her resolve. But it didn't matter. Ethan still needed her, and that was enough. What Marianne didn't know was that this winter would bring more than just cold. It would bring challenges far harsher than any blizzard. It all started with a simple letter left in the mailbox, a notice from City Hall. The house she was living in had been included in a new urban redevelopment zone. The owner, An elderly man who had rented it to her at a symbolic price had sold the property to a construction company. She had 60 days to move out. Marianne froze. That house wasn't big or fancy, but it was the only place she and Ethan could call home. It was where he grew up, where she fell and got back up so many times. And now, she'd have to start all over again, from scratch. She began an exhausting search for a new place, but rent prices were sky high, and many landlords refused to rent to someone with a disability, even though she had always paid on time. Some rejections were blunt, others more subtle, but no less cruel. For days, she made phone calls, visited far-off neighborhoods, tried contacting social workers, but nothing seemed viable. And the more time passed, the harder it became to hide her desperation from Ethan. He wasn't the distracted little boy he used to be. Now, at 7, he was beginning to understand the world, and even without knowing all the details, he could see the exhaustion on his mother's face, the red eyes, the silent tears, the quiet meals. One night, as she was tucking him in, he whispered, "Are we gonna have to sleep on the street, Mommy?" Marianne felt her heart break. "Never, my love. Mommy will figure it out, just like she always has. Trust me." But inside, even she didn't know how. The stress took a toll on her health. Her back pain worsened, and a small wound on her leg, from the friction of the prosthetic, got infected. Marianne kept walking every day, but the discomfort was visible. She staggered more, took longer breaks along the way, breathed heavier, as if battling her own body. One day, near the school gates, her vision darkened. Sounds became muffled and distant, and then she collapsed. The prosthetic came loose. Ethan screamed for help. A man passing by ran to her. Teachers rushed out of the school. Within minutes, she was taken to the school infirmary, and then to the hospital. The diagnosis: an infection in the leg stump. She would need strict bed rest for at least 2 weeks. No walking, no crutches, no school. Ethan would have to stay home. Marianne felt her world spinning. For the first time, her body had truly failed her. For the first time, she felt powerless. And worse, she felt ashamed, as if she had let her son down. But then something unexpected happened. The next morning, the school principal showed up at the hospital. She brought a bag of snacks, a card made by Ethan, and a proposal. "Marianne, we want to help. You've always been there, even when no one expected you to be. Now it's our turn." She explained that they had organized a carpool schedule. Some teachers, neighbors, and even parents had volunteered to take Ethan to school while his mom recovered. And more, a volunteer physical therapist who had seen the TV piece about Marianne weeks before offered to help with her recovery free of charge. Marianne cried. For the first time, she let herself cry without holding back. "I never asked for anything," she said. "Overcome." "Exactly," the principal replied. "That's why you deserve everything." For the next 2 weeks, Ethan was driven to school by different members of the community. Each day brought a new story. He started drawing his kind drivers in his notebook. And every day, he'd tell his mom, "Mommy, today it was the man with the funny mustache. Yesterday it was the lady with blue hair." Marianne would laugh, but she also felt a sweet ache in her chest, the ache of someone who finally realizes they're not alone. When she started walking again, she wasn't the same. She was weaker, took longer to get dressed, walked more cautiously. The scar from the infection still ached, but even so, she returned to her routine, waking up early, making breakfast, grabbing her crutch, and heading out with Ethan. "Are you sure about this, Marianne?" friends would ask. "I am. As long as I can take one more step, I will," she'd answer, eyes steady. But the challenges didn't stop. Not long after 4, another blow. Ethan was diagnosed with mild dyslexia. His reading was slower than expected, and the school recommended specialized support. Once again, the shadow of money loomed. The The sessions were expensive. Public insurance only covered part of it. Mary Ann would have to pay the rest. And since she had been medically advised to stay out of work, her income was nearly zero. She spent nights awake, doing math, figuring out what she could cut. She ate less, so her son could have more. Sold an old radio, some books, a worn armchair. Nothing seemed enough, until she decided to do something she'd never done before. Ask for help online. She created a crowdfunding page, told her story simply, without exaggeration, just the truth, and the truth touched people. The campaign video went viral. Thousands of strangers shared the story of the brave mother with one leg who walked her son to school every day. In just a few days, she raised more than she needed. She paid for Ethan's treatment for a full year, and with what was left her, she helped other mothers in similar situations. But even after this victory, Mary Ann never lost her humility. She remained the same woman who swept her own yard, helped neighbors with their groceries, and listened more than she spoke. What no one knew, not even Ethan, was that Mary Ann carried a secret fear, the fear of losing her ability to walk entirely. With her spinal condition gradually worsening, doctors had warned that she might need a wheelchair in the coming years. She told no one, didn't cry over it. She just intensified her physical therapy, researched adaptations, studied in silence, late into the night, how to keep being strong even when the body says no. And so, between hidden pains, unspoken fears, and small daily miracles, Mary Ann kept going, because a mother's love for her child has a strength that defies any diagnosis, any prediction. On Ethan's birthday that same year, he got an unexpected gift, a brand new tricycle, donated by a local shop that had also heard their story. But the best gift, for him, was something else. During his simple party, with chocolate cake and colorful balloons, he grabbed a toy microphone and said, "I just want to thank my mom, who's the best in the world, because even with only one leg, she takes me everywhere. And to me, she flies, because moms who love like this have wings." Mary Ann couldn't hold back. She cried right there, surrounded by friends, neighbors, teachers, and people who now walked beside her on this journey. That night wasn't grand, no spotlights, but in that tiny room, lit with dollar store string lights, she felt something different. She wasn't just a survivor anymore. She was an inspiration, and deep in her heart, she knew the hardest days might still be ahead. But there was something inside her, silent and unbreakable, that would never let her stop fighting. Time went by. 2 years had passed since the winter that nearly stopped Mary Ann Walker's steps, but never her will. Ethan was now 9 years old, bursting with energy and hard to keep up with. Mornings in Louisville still started early, but their routine had taken on a new rhythm. Mary Ann, though still dealing with pain, had grown more in tune with her body's limits. She had learned to walk with more wisdom, to save every step, and to accept the bad days without feeling defeated. Her and Ethan's story was no longer a secret. The local TV report from months earlier had been picked up by websites, shared on social media, and had even inspired a small regional nonprofit to create a support program for mothers with physical disabilities. But Mary Ann, she hadn't changed a bit. She still woke up early, made pancakes on Saturdays, helped Ethan with his homework, and walked him to school, even when he insisted on riding his bike. "I'm still your kid, Mom. I want to walk with you," he'd say, gripping her hand tightly. Then, on a regular day, with blue skies and a light breeze, something unusual happened. On the way home from school, about halfway there, Mary Ann was approached by an elegant woman wearing a light blazer and a lanyard around her neck. "Are you Mary Ann Walker?" Startled, she held Ethan a bit closer and nodded. "My name is Carol Benson. I'm a coordinator for the scholarship program at the University of Louisville. I've been following your story, and I'd like to talk to you. Marianne's eyes widened. University, scholarships. Carol smiled warmly. Don't worry, it's nothing complicated. Do you have time to talk tomorrow? It's something good, I promise. That night, Marianne barely slept. She didn't know what to expect. Were they mistaking her for someone else? Was it some sort of survey? A campaign? But the next day, in a small room at the neighborhood community center, Carol explained everything. Marianne, you're an inspiration to so many people. The way you care for your son, the way you faced your disability, how you never stopped walking for him. It's touched people's hearts, and we're launching a new project. We want to offer you a part-time, accessible job in our community outreach department. It comes with training and room for growth. Marianne sat in silence. And there's more, Carol continued. With this position, you can enroll your son for free in the university's affiliated school. It's a school with specialized academic support, accessibility resources, counseling, and teachers trained to work with dyslexia and learning difficulties. It was like the world stood still for a moment. Marianne held back her tears, but her voice cracked. I can do this. Am I really capable? Carol reached out and placed her hand on Marianne's. You've already done more than most people. We just want to give you the structure to keep going. And slowly, things began to change. Marianne went through training. She learned to use a computer more independently, started working in outreach and support for social projects. She organized group meetings with other moms, began writing short texts about pieces of her own journey. Her words, simple but heartfelt, were featured on university flyers, community center boards, and even local radio programs. Ethan, for his part, flourished like never before. With the new support at the university school, he started understanding his challenges better. He learned to handle words more gently. He grew to love reading, something that once felt impossible. And he discovered a love for drawing, especially scenes of him walking with his mom, laughing together. "This one's me when I was little," he'd say, showing his drawings to classmates. "And this is my mom. She only has one leg, but she walked miles with me." One day, the school coordinator asked to speak with Marianne. There was something different about Ethan. More confidence, more empathy. "Your son has a rare heart, Marianne," she said. "He's taught us more in 3 months than many students do in 3 years. He's a reflection of your journey." Marianne never knew how to handle compliments. She'd look down, smile shyly, and say thank you. But inside, she felt a quiet victory flicker to life, and those victories kept multiplying. On Ethan's 10th birthday, the university held a public event to honor stories of resilience. Marianne was invited to speak on stage and tell her story in her own words. She trembled behind the mic. Her hands were sweaty, but then she looked at the front row. Ethan was there, smiling, his eyes glowing with pride. Beside him were neighbors, teachers, the volunteer physical therapist, and even the old man who used to leave a frozen water bottle on his fence. "My name is Marianne Walker," she began, "and this is the story of my steps, one step at a time, in pain, in fear, but always filled with love." The room went quiet, then rose in a standing ovation. After the event, a man approached her. He was an independent documentary producer. He said he wanted to film her and Ethan's story, said the world needed to hear it. She thought about it and said yes. Filming happened gradually. Some interviews at home, others at school, others along the path she still walked, not out of necessity, but tradition. She said she liked keeping the habit, that each step now was a celebration. The documentary was released online a few months later. It got thousands of views. And what moved people most wasn't the hardship. It was the details. Ethan's little notes on the fridge, their morning chats, the quiet courage, the love without spectacle. Then, one regular weekend, the news arrived that changed everything. The university decided to award Ethan a lifelong scholarship, from high school through college, all expenses paid. Marianne broke down in tears. "I just wanted him to learn how to read better," she whispered, overwhelmed. "And now he'll learn the whole world." "Marianne," the coordinator replied, "because he has wings. Wings you built with your steps." Time passed. Ethan grew up. He studied visual arts in college, created a social project for children with learning difficulties, illustrated books, and at every event he attended, he always started his speech the same way. "I learned how to walk with my mom, and she only had one leg. Marianne. She kept walking, slower now, with more pauses, using a cane instead of crutches. But her smile, that never changed. And neither did her heart. She never wanted to be a role model. She just wanted to be a mom. But by loving as fiercely as she did, she became a symbol of resilience, of quiet struggle, of unshakable strength without a stage." One afternoon, now with gray hair and lines around her eyes, Marianne sat on a bench beside Ethan in the park. "Remember when you used to ask if you'd carry me one day?" Ethan chuckled. "I do. But you never needed that, Mom." She smiled. "Maybe now I do." Ethan took her hand gently. "Don't worry. Now I'll walk for both of us." And there they stayed, mother and son, hand in hand, comfortable silence, peaceful hearts, because some journeys don't end with fireworks. They end with a simple truth, that it was all worth it. Every step, every tear, every choice. And the story of this brave mother who walked her son to school every day on just one leg kept echoing through the sidewalks of memory, in the eyes of those who heard it, and in the steady footsteps of Ethan, who now carried the flame she lit. If Marianne's journey moved you, just imagine how many other mothers go through silent battles every single day. Here on our channel, we give voice to these incredible women. So if this story touched you in any way, go ahead and subscribe, leave a like, and share it with someone who needs to be reminded of a mother's love. Because every view helps stories like this reach more people and inspire the world.